Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day and welcome to an unexpected surprise update video thing, I guess. Wiz went into maintenance yesterday, but what I really didn't expect was that when we woke up, that there would be several big PvP updates. So I thought I would talk about some of them and talk about how it's gonna affect PvP. We got some new spells to talk about. We got new things in PvP to talk about. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So there are two new spells, and I don't think it's a coincidence, but they affect balance and fire, which I think most people feel like are the weakest in this meta. I don't know, I'm sure people disagree here and there, but they are definitely two of the weaker ones, and it's good that they're getting the attention that they deserve. I think this is actually a very big deal for both schools. The first update is balance of power. So now, instead of power play, which was a 4-pip chance bubble, balance finally has an actual bubble that they can use for 2 pips. I cannot overstate how important this update is. It's one of the biggest balance buffs that we've ever seen. I think it's the first balance buff that I can remember in ages. So Gaze presumably also has a bubble that does the exact same thing, but the difference now is, in order to get a damage bubble, you don't just have to gaze. You don't have to spend 5 pips in a shadow pip. Now, this is a big buff for balance for several reasons. One, when you do put up this bubble, if your opponent happens to change the bubble, you still have spells that can use their own bubble against them. Like Spectral Blast if someone puts up an Ice, Fire, Storm bubble. You have Spiritual Tribunal if someone puts up a Myth, Death, or Life bubble. So not only could you actually reduce your opponent's damage, you can force them into bubbling in a way that actually helps you as well. This is going to add a layer to balance that has never existed. It's not like other schools that can just fight for bubble and just get extra damage. This is a very, very big deal. I'm actually kind of surprised that it's a 2-pip bubble, mainly because of the fact that balance can literally use any bubble. I'm not complaining. It's definitely a weaker bubble than any of the other ones, so I guess it does make a lot of sense to me. So already, one of the new spells, it gives a huge buff. I mean, you can essentially, with a punishment pet like the one I rock, you could theoretically have a punishment and a bubble up, and you can set up for a Scion if you blade up enough, and you could actually have enough buffs for this spell to be worth it. So this just opens up a lot of options. Very, very exciting stuff in general. This is definitely the first part of the update that I can totally get behind as a balance wizard. I like this. Let's move on to the other part. A second part of the secret update from last night. Brace y'allselves, man. Brace y'allselves. This is gonna be a little bit crazy. Detonate is officially 1 pip. It used to be 4 pips, and now it's 1 pip. Now, if you guys are wondering what Detonate essentially does, all it really does is that if there's an overtime on your opponent, you can do all of that damage in one big go. And now it's only 1 pip. Now, here's the thing. I honestly thought that this was always kind of a dumb spell at 4 pips. And now, not only is it very usable as by itself, you could probably combo it with Nightbringer, especially if you have a 3-pip Nightbringer. So let's say I get a bunch of, I've been farming a little bit, your boys been farming a little bit, you got them Nightbringers. Let me put them all in my backpack, right? I should be able to upgrade this a couple of times. So upgrade it once, you already know, upgrade it again. That's what I'm talking about. So if I were to upgrade it another time, which I do need the spell elements to do, right? I could put multiple copies of Nightbringer and multiple copies of Detonate, and what this would do is that, let's say you were to do an overtime, like Burning Rampage, you could theoretically combo it with this. So you could do a Nightbringer Detonate into any overtime, and especially if it hits first, then you're looking at a lot of damage that cannot be triaged or shifted. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So let's say you're going against an opponent, right? Like, I don't know, I'm here because I don't want to kill my opponent on the first shot. I'm here, right? Let's say you're going against an opponent and you're blade stacking for an overtime. Right now, if you were to do something like this, it generally would not be a good idea. The reason for that being is that, let's say you put all of these blades, all of these pips, all of these resources, all of these rounds into an overtime, you run the risk of it getting shifted or triaged. It's one of the main reasons why overtimes in general, even though fire is an overtime school, aren't really a huge part of the meta for fire. Now, it won't be like that. So like right now, if you had 3 blades up and a furnace, like I do right now, right? you would think it would be the dumbest idea in the world to do a burning rampage, because you were just going to be asking for a triage. But now, with a 1-pip detonate, what you could do is right before you're going to hit, for only 5 pips, or 4 pips if you have the best Nightbringer, right? For just 4 pips, you could do a Nightbringer detonate, and then you could do your overtime after. And what that would do is, not only with Burning Rampage would you break a shield and then hit, you would not be able to get triaged or shifted for spending all those resources. So let's look at what I'm talking about. Pop! So look at this, bro. Look at this, right? It's a Burning Ramp. Even if they had a shield, it wouldn't matter, right? Because it still hits twice. You can basically make the spell into like a Minotaur for fire, except it's extremely powerful because it's fire, first off. And 2, the damage on it is outrageous compared to a Minotaur. So look at that. That already does 2,000. There's an overtime, and now you literally just detonate. And look at this, bro. That's what fire's capable of. All of that damage. That hole got one-shotted. So not only can you do that on a burning anyways, just you know, as a surprise, you could also do a Nightbringer play. And what you're going to be doing is, honestly, only really spending 4 pips for a utility that can win you the entire game in an instant. So for that reason alone, I'm sure Detonate is going to be really, really powerful. I'm sure Nightbringer is going to be meta on fire. It's going to be a very interesting strategy to see. Obviously, if someone double shields, you're going to want to think about whether you even want to detonate, right? Like, it's only if they have 0 shields or 1 shield, that's when you really should be doing this. But it's very exciting. For blade stackers that want to try out fire PvP, it's actually a very, very cool strat. And it gives fire, just like balance, a much needed buff in PvP. So both of these parts of the updates, I can honestly say I really like. I think it's actually really awesome. Now, the other 2 parts of the update on this, like, you know, little secret, I guess, little PvP update that I kind of snuck on Benita's, one of them we've already seen. It's the crit nerf. It's officially, I guess, in live realm for everyone to use. If you guys want to see my opinions on that, I will leave that video in the description. I don't want to just, you know, beat a dead horse with that, but the other one is extremely game-changing. This is a huge game changer, and I think everyone's been asking for it almost for a month now, and it's kind of crazy that finally it's dropped. They have officially put a time limit into ranked matches. Now, this is a very controversial thing, in my opinion, and I honestly still don't know how I really feel about it. Now, if you're wondering, why would they do, you know, an update like that? All you gotta do is look through the ranked kiosk, right? If you look through it, what you would have seen up to today is a bunch of life wizards at level 130 just stalling and not really fighting anybody. And now when you look, there's not a single match that's doing that. So as you guys can see, right, I'm at this random match between Scott and Brian. You guys saw, right? There was a 25-minute timer. And that means that this game has been going on for 5 minutes. You guys see it right here. So when this time runs out, Diego will basically declare a winner. Now here's the thing, right? This is a permanent fix to jading in general. So I think it's a good thing in the sense that stalling strategies simply will not work anymore. But it also adds a layer to PvP that has never existed before, and it's a constraint that I think people are going to take seriously. What does this time limit mean for people who play slow? And how slow is too slow? I think there are still going to be some matchups, like maybe between ice and ice, or maybe between ice and, you know, a lot of any tank setup, really, that do run the risk of running past 30 minutes. But I'm wondering, in those scenarios, right, when no one's really stalling, but the game just goes to 30 minutes, that's not, like, impossible. What does Diego do? Now, we don't know much about how Diego will pick a winner, but we do know this from Twitter. We do know that it's not the same as tournaments. So this Diego does not operate in the same way as tournament Diego. Now, there isn't really a lot that we know about tournament Diego anyways, but all I know is that tournament Diego sometimes made the wrong call, in my opinion. It was like very obviously the wrong call, but for some reason, I guess it focused on who had more health instead of who was actually fighting more strategically. So it's gonna be really, I guess we're just gonna have to do matches to see. But I think that there is a very, very risky thing where if you just say whoever does the most damage wins, it'll always give a benefit to people who don't heal, right? People who heal and play a little slower, especially if they have high heal boost, since crit healing isn't as much of a thing. If they heal a lot, and they just don't do that much damage, but they're going against a non-healing school, so their damage matters a lot more. If they somehow manage to take more than 30 minutes to fight, but they're still obviously going to win. Will Diego go in their favor, or is it just whoever hits more wins? I think that's the question. I'm obviously a huge fan of the fact that Jade gear is basically not going to be useful in PvP anymore. Slower playstyles, on the other hand, I hope they don't go extinct. So this timed update is definitely one of the bombshells of 2020, I think, when it comes to Wiz. But I definitely also think that it paves the road for non-stalling games forever. And I think it does more good than harm, but I am left with some questions. I hope I've explained that properly. I think my humble advice, just from my standpoint, I just think we need some transparency on how Diego's gonna figure out who wins these ranked matches when they go over 30 minutes. I mean, is it competitive for us to, you know, just fight for 30 minutes and then just, you know, put it up to fate? I don't think so. I think we should know what the objective is if the game goes above 30 minutes, even if it is a very, very small number of cases. I think that'll avoid calls that you don't really expect to ruin your match, especially if you put 30 minutes into it. But yeah, y'all, that's the update. Very, very, very interesting stuff. New spells, timed ranked matches, a completely different meta overnight. I have no idea what's going to happen, so I'm going to test out a lot of these things on stream, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you drop a sub, drop a notification. There's tons of links in the description. My Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, my Instagram, and my Patreon. And as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong, so stay awesome. And yeah, y'all.